What is going on, everybody? Kim K here, back with you. Looks like Chester's going to join as well. It is the NASCAR Pinty Series Power Hour. I have a voice still, surprisingly, after an amazing weekend at Delaware Speedway. Come on. Want to definitely talk about an amazing weekend at Delaware Speedway. Holy moly, what an amazing track. What a great facility. They've done so much amazing work. The repave, what great work. We had amazing racing. Yeah, we had some weather that came and was a part of things, but it didn't stick around, and we got the full 250 in. And there was a lot that happened. A lot that we're going to dive into. We crowned a champion, which we kind of already knew was going to happen. There were some really impressive runs put in by some new faces in the series. There was, once again, rivalries reignited. And at the end of the day, we saw 27 cars on an oval, which is the most that we have seen in the NASCAR Pinty Series on an oval in quite some time. Delaware Speedway is showing that they have what it takes to put on an amazing finale. Obviously, Jukasa was around there for several years. We don't have that option at the current time, so why not wrap it up at Delaware Speedway? And you know what? After the finale, I almost feel like we need to have two races, one in the beginning of the season and one at the end. The action was crazy. There is so much that racetrack gave us yesterday, not in terms of just the environment, but the actual racing product itself, side by side, countless laps, great battles, lots of rubbing and racing, and we got a little bit of fireworks once again. Every time we go to Delaware now, things are a little bit crazy. So let's quickly get into the first topic of conversation, which is the long-awaited victory for Brandon Watson. As Derek says in the chat here, many more to come. I think he was going to have a couple more this year, and they had a bit of bad luck, some contact, and it definitely made a statement. This was a statement race for Brandon Watson, and they definitely had an amazing showing. WMI, who's had a really up and down year, I think we can all say that mechanical issues and accidents have really plagued the WMI team across its many cars, but to put on a showing that we saw that Brandon Watson was completely capable of last year, and he almost got that win last year as well at Delaware. He just had to do it all for 250. Now, was he going to win if there was a lot of things that we have to think about. Now we got another cat. I got Nala joining us. The cats love to talk racing, clearly. Brandon's pretty much stinking up the APC series for a long time, and I think people were very happy to see him go into Pinty's full time. But the other thing is the talent there, and that is on display once again. But he wasn't the only name that we saw up there at the front. A veteran, the guy who you have to look to when you go to Delaware Speedway, DJ Kennington, once again up near the front, battling most of the race. And that's the one thing that we can talk about, is that this race was able to have side-by-side racing. And you know what? It didn't seem like there was an advantage. Some guys clearly could make the high side work. Some couldn't make the high side work, so they had to switch it up. Some ran the middle. There's an amazing photo that Stephen Ellis took. I'm waiting to see if he's going to release it, because he's got an amazing picture of the front of the field, and the top four are driving 4 different lanes in 1 and 2. It's something I've never seen before at this racetrack, and we know that the racing has been really good this year at Delaware Speedway, but the NASCAR, and I think we were worried kind of how would the NASCAR Pinty Series be able to race with everything else being really good. Well, it's shown, and it's funny how simple things like a repave get done, and in other series it doesn't work. We've seen it countless times on tracks in the United States that the NASCAR Cup Series goes to, and it just doesn't work. This seemed to really, really have a positive effect on the racing. It wasn't a full repave. They did some fixes. They changed some things, but at the end of the day, this was still Delaware Speedway, and it was phenomenal. Absolutely great racing that took place. 27 cars. Got up a couple cars that maybe we were expecting to see that didn't end up making the trip, but one of the names that did come out and race was the number 3, and that was being piloted by Jake Sheridan. And for a guy running in only his second NASCAR Pinty Series start, he got his first career start this year at Ohsweken Speedway, finishing in 3rd on the podium, first career start. And I'm going to go out and say that Jake, to me, showed that he's needs to be in this series. There's definitely something to the APC series model. We know that you get to that series, you're racing some of the best in the entire province of Ontario. And what we've seen with drivers that come out of there is they come up here and they are ready to race. It's not, we're going to go run in the back for weeks and weeks and weeks. No. Shea Gemmel, for example, last year when he came up, immediately up at the front. Jake Sheridan, now JR's already had experience in these cars, but JR Fitzpatrick, immediately up at the front. We've seen Jake Sheridan come up, Kyle Steckley, Trayton Lapsevich. All these names are coming up and immediately running. Ray Morneau Jr. makes his first start, qualifies in the top 10. This is not... there is a system here that works in at least Ontario. You are getting great drivers coming in, filtered into this series. They are showing the talent that they have, that they can run right up with everybody else in the series. And the talent is good. They're not willing to just sit there and take contact from other drivers. They are willing to give it right back. Jake Sheridan was one of those guys yesterday. If he got bumped, he gave it right back to them. And I like that aggressiveness. I like that because it brings that excitement. It is bumping and banging throughout the entire race. There's going to be people that are always going to say, APC Series is this, Pinty Series is this. But that's the reality. One's not better than the other. They're two different entities. But what they do provide us is some damn good racing. You have amazing late model action. You have amazing NASCAR action in Canada that we can get here in our own backyard. And we should be very, very excited for that. Again, I'm hoping to see Jake Sheridan in this 3-car next year. We don't really know what the situation is with Brent Taylor. We know his season obviously finished at CTMP. Whatever he decides, wherever he may end up, all the power to him. I actually am not sure what his plans are, but we know that seat, it's been a struggle this year. And to see Jake Sheridan come into this team that's had such a miserable year and put on a show like that, it was great. Now, it didn't end that way. I've got some comments here I just want to see here. Because most of the tracks that are run on the Pinty Series, they don't have to deal with all the aero problems that the Cup cars do. Yes, repaving big tracks makes them faster, which makes aero worse. It's absolutely true, and that's the big thing about it, is the cars are really good, Jim. They don't have those problems. Now, mind you, if the speeds were increased, I don't know. It's still short track racing, right? So it's different repaving a short track than it is, like you had said. But I look at like Richmond, Bristol, the ones that they've repaved, and the racing has not been as good as it was previously. Now, obviously, you can argue, you can make points. That's just my opinion. But I think that what they did here was brilliant. And as Rick Verburn says, which is, I thank you, Rick, for coming on. I know you guys have had an amazing season for DJK Racing to come back after, I think it's been mediocre a couple of years. And DJ really showed that you guys had something for them the entire year this year. What makes it, he says, what makes it work is they left the concrete on the bottom groove. And I think, absolutely. It's not a completely smooth track. It still takes rubber really well. You've got that sticky feeling when you walk across it. It was awesome. And to me, if I'm going to a racetrack, okay, if I'm getting two of those races, if I'm getting the APC series and the Pinty series, to me that's a seal of approval. You add in the super stocks or a OSS, hot rods, modifieds, whatever it is, another companion series, that is a amazing ticket. Now, unfortunately, we just don't have the amount of tracks that I think NASCAR would go to in Ontario. But you get some of those late model series in Quebec as well. Put them on combination with the NASCAR Pinty series, same situation. Great late model racing next with great stock car racing. Absolutely phenomenal stuff. Like I said, Jake Sheridan, he's been doing really, really well in the APC series. He's got a couple wins. But from what I saw last night, it's same with Ray Morneau. Ray winning the weekly series championship this year at Delaware Speedway. Again, we're talking Delaware Speedway. We don't really know how they're going to do outside of those racetracks. But if Kyle Steckley, Trayton Lapsevich, and Connor James, even we've seen run the APC series, it is not a simple thing to just come into these cars and pick it up. But for whatever reason, they're picking it up really, really well, and that's great to see. Aren't as big enough to do anything, but make it better. One of the things that was awesome for me to see yesterday as well was that 03 car out there. For not just the fact that it is Ray Morneau, one of the guys that I've been lucky to have on our podcast and to be able to talk with, but Ray is got a great group of friends, a great group of crew guys that, and the crowd must have been at least half for Ray, maybe even more, because the crowd was going crazy. And this is the big thing about this series. Getting cars and getting the series to a point where it is cost effective for a weekly racer to rent a ride every time we go somewhere is where we want to aim for. A lot of people talked about CASCAR and how cheap it was and how this and how that. Well, if you have all those super stock guys, all the late model guys that can afford to have a car and run it every time we come to Delaware, there's an opportunity that we could get to that point. We're not going to see 60-odd cars again. I don't ever think we're going to get to that point again. But getting to a 30-car plus field could potentially happen if those costs get to a point where tires we know are really expensive in this series. The cars are really expensive. It is a tough thing to be able to achieve. But getting that hometown driver to be able to participate in this race, in really any of these races, it brings fans to the track. There's absolutely no doubt that it does. Ray Morneau has a huge fan base. He's somebody that you could definitely bring into this series, market. He's got racer friends with him that are also on their way up. You have guys and gals that could definitely be coming into this series. We know that there's a strong base of Quebec drivers. There is a strong base of Quebec sponsorship. Where Ontario's suffering is we really need that assistance. These new guys coming in really do need that help. And it comes across from APC to Super Stocks to OSS. It is across the board. Not an easy thing. And Murray is absolutely right that guys like Jake can drive a race car. He didn't start up as high as I think he wanted to, and he motored through the field. And he didn't care who was in his way. And I like that. Sure, you got to drive with respect. Absolutely. We'll talk about that a little bit later as well. But there's no lack of talent here. Not at all. You got Brandon Watson, Trayton Lapsevich, Kyle Steckley, Ray Morneau, Jake Sheridan, and that's just the tip. There is a lot more in the APC series. There is a lot more in Superstocks. You get a guy like Alain Zardo, wins countless Superstock races, who won the Superstock Championship last year, is a damn good driver. He is somebody who, again, I could see come straight up into this series and be very successful. Garrett Tiemersma, same thing. Garrett's maybe not been around as much, like he's getting there now. But I'm sure Garrett, if he's watching, will say he'd love to be able to get to be a part of the APC series, grow that ladder, continue to bring people in, move up to the NASCAR Pinty series. How about doing a NASCAR Pinty series race at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve in the summer? I would say yes, Owl, if it were me. I love that track. I don't know if there's enough revenue from the series that it justifies renting it out. I don't know if the track itself... My understanding is the tracks need to actually pay. I'm not 100% sure here, but I think they need to pay or have some sort of investment for NASCAR to go there. Now, whether NASCAR goes there by themselves with the NASCAR Pinty Series, I don't really see, which is unfortunate. I think there's a lot of tracks that are interested. I would believe Montmagny is interested. I've heard that they're interested. I've heard Granby is interested. That's what you want. You want to have tracks that can afford it, but you also want to have big marquee events. Now, would GP3R be happy with seeing Circuit Gilles Villeneuve as well? Absolutely. I don't know. I like both of those tracks. I don't think I have a racetrack that I really don't like, except for one. Would we actually see it though? It's hard to say, right? But I think they get NASCAR South to come back up and invest a lot of money, then Pinty's will follow. I 100% believe that. We saw it for many years. And I think if we can continue the trend here, this is the thing, is we're still rebuilding here. There's a lot that has to happen. This offseason is going to be very crucial. There's a change in series direction. Obviously, we want to thank Sherry Putnam because she put in a hell of a lot of work the last 6 years. Yeah, Wes, don't rub it in which one I don't like. But Sherry had to steer us through COVID and the uncertainty that brought. We weren't sure we were going to have a season in 2020, and they made it happen. Jason Hathaway won a championship. It was a short series. It was only 6 races, but it was a championship nonetheless. They have some really good people that are running race teams. Scott Steckley. Now you have this new team with J.C. Paillet, Dave White, T.J. Renamato. There's a lot. You've got DJ Kennington still helping to try and help get these car counts up and available. You really do have a good core group here. You've got the Dumoulins helping get names out in the road courses. There is a huge contingent. Dave Jacobs racing 2 cars. So there's no shortage there. I think part shortages, that hurt a lot of what could have been even more for this year. Again, costs are the biggest thing. And I know that Tony coming in is everybody's expecting miracles, but you got to give it some time. So we got a new series director. Sherry is is retiring from the series, and obviously we want to thank her for all she's put in. But that also leaves a question mark as to who is going to be the name that does come in and work with Tony and the rest of the team at NASCAR. Is it someone that's already a part of the leadership team? Is it somebody completely outside the current regime? We know that there's a team at NASCAR that is supposed to be based here just in Canada, and I would hope that means that we have a website, timing and scoring. I know those are things probably, and they know these guys up here. They're not. This is the thing. People act like they have no idea what the issue is. They know. It's just it's not as easy to just make sweeping changes. So hopefully in this offseason, I think they've got amazing people in the series. They've still got Caitlin Patrick doing the social media, who's on the ball with all sorts of interviews and content. Matthew Manor with all of the amazing photos. And then, of course, you've got Tony coming in now as the president. You've got all the NASCAR officials that are part of it. I expect things are going to change for next year. We've got a lot of great people, podcasts, and media sources. I've heard even Marc-Antoine Cameron, it was going to be on SportsCenter with Jay Onright tonight. So that's huge to get the NASCAR Pinty Series champion on network TV. It's a sports channel, but it's still a big deal. It's something that's going to be seen across Canada. That's what we want. Tape delays are one thing, but having live interviews, that's a great thing. There's a lot that this offseason is going to have in store for it, but there's a lot of question marks. We know Pinty's is back. That's the one thing that we can confirm. We know Pinty's is back. They signed the 5-year deal. We know Tony's coming in. That's going to stay. We know of a certain amount of tracks that are 100% staying. We already know Oshweekend is staying. It's on the schedule for next year. GP3R, it's on the schedule for next year. We already know that you're going to see Eastbound Park. That's not going away either. So you've got some races confirmed already. The schedule I expect to stay pretty close. I don't know what would take its place if there was any availability, but there's obviously going to be a tug and pull as to where, which direction are we going to go here? Are we going to go more races this way, more races this way? Are we going to go back to BC? Obviously, there's a lot of question marks around BC. I think RS1 kind of has that covered. And it's a good Western alternative to the drivers that maybe can't make it all the way out. We've seen Jason White take that route and the Dowlers. So there is options there. The Seaberts, of course, have created a great series out there, and maybe there's options to do combination type events. We've seen Andrew Ranger, Gary Kloot, JP Bergeron go out there and run around Area 27. Penticton Speedway's out there, so you never know. We don't know what the future holds. I think Riverside Speedway is still out there as well. When it comes to names, one of the question marks is who's going to be where next year. It's going to be a question mark because we really don't get a lot of the silly season type news. We know a couple of things so far. We know Kevin Lacroix is back. That Napa deal is a long 10-year deal, and it just started. So if you don't like Kevin Lacroix, sorry. He's still going to be in the series, and for a while. But aside from that, really don't know. I would think there's a lot of announcements that have to come out over names like Glenn Stiers, Sam Fellows, as we see on there, Rin Amato, Rafael Assard. it's something that you're going to have to figure out. This offseason, hopefully we get a little bit more clear of an idea. But RGC Sports, Gary Clute, will he do another one? It'd be very interesting to see where we go next year in terms of personnel. I think there's some great core pieces here. We've had a very, really good year. There's been a lot of action, some incidents, which we'll get to in just a second. Some good rivalries. And then, of course, there's always the fun. And the fun has been being able to talk about the series this year. Because there's been excitement. There's been a lot of buzz. And as we head into 2023, I would hope that the buzz is at an all-time high. Controversial standings, sure. But to have a series that has such great people, and it seems to have that renewed interest, hopefully will just help motorsports in Canada. Like I said, we know that there's an uphill battle here because of costs, and development is another one. You'll have constant development in the series. It is not just to do with what happens, but the surroundings and the environment. If you start to get noise complaints on some of these racetracks, it becomes a problem. Initiatives like what Dominic Fougere has done with GP3R, making it as green as possible, having options like that to appease, to help. It was great. And I think having names come in for these one-offs like a Jacques Villeneuve, Ken Schrader, Stuart Friesen, obviously Alex Labey is a big name still, Raphael Lessard. Really lucky. And I think next year we can see even more. I think WMI and McCall have a lot of cars to build. But we're going to get talking about something else that happened yesterday, and I'll let the footage speak for itself, courtesy of Flow Racing.
Andrew Ranger almost flipped over the hood of DJ Kennington. Like, watch him. This is just veteran. Okay, I'm going to hang out here. Yeah, it's time to go. Andrew Ranger almost flipped over the hood of DJ Kennington. Like, watch him. This is just veteran. Okay, I'm going to hang out here. Yeah, it's time to go. Andrew Ranger almost flipped over the hood of DJ Kennington. Like, watch him. This is just veteran. Okay, I'm going to hang out here. Yeah, it's time to go. Andrew Ranger almost flipped over the hood of DJ Kennington. Like, watch him. This is just veteran. Okay, I'm going to hang out here. Yeah, it's time to go. Andrew Ranger almost flipped over the hood of DJ Kennington. Like, watch him. This is just veteran. Okay, I'm going to hang out here. Yeah, it's time to go. Andrew Ranger almost flipped over the hood of DJ Kennington. Like, watch him. This is just veteran. Okay, I'm going to hang out here. Yeah, it's time to go. Andrew Ranger almost flipped over the hood of DJ Kennington. Like, watch him. This is just veteran. Okay, I'm going to hang out here. Yeah, it's time to go. Andrew Ranger almost flipped over.
Well, what are we thinking? Bit crazy, wasn't it? Well, what are we thinking? Lots of people talking about what happened here. It was tough. This when we talk about race NASCAR Pinty Series specific hits, this was a brutal one, and I have seen my share of races. Can't go too far back. I mean, only to 2003 in Canada of catching races, but this was a awful wreck. And no, he was not punted. He didn't lose it really either. I think if we take a look here, Tim, what I believe the other replay, this is obviously just Flow Racing's clip, but when they slowed it down at the racetrack, it looked as what had happened was that Lessard had gotten underneath Watson into 3. And when Watson came down, Lessard had to give it a little bit of a break and got bumped by Lacroix, and that was it. Unfortunately, a lot of people were saying that he was just dumped, which was not the case. At the end of the day, you've got a lot of wrecked race cars here. The 18 car most severely. It was if you look at just the direction that Tag hit it, and then to have the tire of Andrew Ranger land on his headrest. And I don't know if there was an actual photo of it, but there was apparently a mark from the tire on the headrest for Taglioni. And this car is, yes, Tim, an absolutely racing accident. I didn't see any evidence that it was a dump or a punt or intentional at all. I don't know why Kevin would even make a move if it wasn't that's, you know what I mean? I know people were saying that he just dumped him, but no, why would he do that with their full pack of cars on a restart? He's not, as much as people might not like Kevin, he's not that type of a racer. I mean, he gets aggressive when he has to, when he feels necessary, but he's a little bit smarter than just dumping a car in front of an entire pack of cars behind them. And it's unfortunate because at the end of the year, you're going to have all these wrecked race cars. And I mean, the 18 was really damaged. When they took it off, the whole chassis even looked like it was busted. And there's going to need to be some serious work put into that car for Tag to use it again. And unfortunately, it took out some great people. But I want you to take a look at the high side for the orange and white car of Dexter Stacy, who somehow avoided this wreck. They say DJ. DJ actually did get some minor damage, but he also put the brakes on so well and did not get run over. You see, Dexter goes a little bit high, DJ goes low, and they avoided. 27 is junk too, Rick says. It is, that was your photo. Okay, Tim. It is pretty bad. It is a pretty damaged race car. 27 being junk too. That's a tough sell. That's the worst thing about it is that it is the end of the season, and now you've got a car that is junk. I mean, it would have been a great day for a lot of fans that wanted pieces of fiberglass. They didn't actually have a lot. When I went back there wasn't a lot available, so I guess they didn't really have it available for the fans because it all got picked up by the crews at Delaware. But yes, please, Tim. No, actually, no, Tim, because there's been a lot of issues on that. But so what would be the issue there, Owl, with if NASCAR employees are watching this? There are people from NASCAR that do tune in quite a bit because they know of the podcast, but and they know of the show. Well, see, the thing is, Jim, is that Glenn had a rough day already, so it didn't help that he got more damage on that wreck. Okay, here he goes. Tim says, couldn't shoot from right of the 27 as I can't shoot open engine bays. And the whole corner was gone. Jeez. What a mess. Yes, Miss Gloria here once again. Our favorite. Well, I can't say that. I don't want to offend anybody else like Mike Charest who might be here. But yeah, a tough way to end it for all these guys. But some great saves by DJ Kennington, Alex LeBay, also there on the high side. Alex comes actually, if you watch, he's a black car right behind that just misses Glenn Stiers. Just gets a little bit of contact and then really kind of had to gas it to get by there. Dexter put the brake on. DJ put the brake on. Brian Cathcart and Mark Dilley missed it. Yeah, Jim, it was a really bad year for Andrew. I mean, that deal came together really late, so we wouldn't have him in the series if not for JC Paillet, not for WMI, who was able to work and get him as part of the series, but. And that was the cool thing about that, Tim, is I thought he had been junked. Tim saying that Ray spun and didn't get hit. Didn't have any damage. I'm going to answer Owl's question in just a second here. But for some reason, my allergies are like awful right when I'm trying to talk. The one thing that we can say about this wreck, though, is it does, once again, showcase some of the dangers that are part of even just the Pinty series. It's not the Cup series, it's not Talladega or Daytona, but you can have really hard hits. And, you know, for WMI, they have had an awful season. And to have, I mean, they won with Brandon and they won with Andrew earlier in the year. But when you talk about the troubles that can come with a wreck like that, Tag very well is going to be sore. I think Andrew very much is going to be sore. It is tough to see a wreck like this because we don't really see them that bad. But Owl's question about the Cup Series coming in. This is an interesting topic because anytime I've heard of NASCAR coming back to Canada, it is never mentioned. They've never mentioned Cup, not once. It can happen now. Obviously, we know that the restrictions have been lifted for travelers, so that makes things a lot simpler. But we know it's not going to happen next year. Of the places that I could see them going, I think GP3R, CTMP, or Circuit Gilles Villeneuve are the best options. If it's Cup, I think a lot of renovations have to be done. It's just what we hear. Yeah, Tim, I saw him in the garage afterwards. He said it was good. So hopefully not bad. Murray, so you talk about APC and Hot Rods. They both had some awful wrecks at Delaware this year too. That Hot Rod one was one of the worst wrecks I've seen. The Bone Stocks had a huge pileup on the backstretch. I think everybody had a pileup at Delaware this year. So it's almost happened in I think every series this year. No restrict. Yes, Tim. It does mean that we'll likely see some of those Cup Series guys come back up here. I think we definitely you're going to get your Christopher Bells. If Glenn does his magic, and I'm sure he will, Kyle Larson will be a part of the dirt race in whatever year it's going to be. If it's going to be next year or the year after, I cannot expect that Glenn Stiers would not be able to get one of his drivers here. He's got those those connections. He's got those resources. It just depends when they're going to run it too, right? The way that you run, and a lot of people questioning, why would we race on a Tuesday? Well, it's a simple reason. You race on the Tuesday so that you can get those Cup guys because they're not at a race. If you do it on a Saturday, Sunday, they're not going to come. You're not going to get Xfinity and Cup guys. It might be different if we're talking about Circuit Villeneuve since it's a FIA Grade 1 facility. Yes, but again, NASCAR tends to always have a little bit of other things that they want to have. That's not just including the track itself. It's also the surrounding area, the location around it. So that's including hospitality, hotels, travel, roadways, all that type of stuff. There's a lot of things that come into those factors. So having, for example, if my understanding is correct, CTMP was picked for trucks because it was still an hour away from Toronto. It was still close to a major city. Obviously, Circuit Villeneuve and GP3R are good options. They're still close. They're still close within it. I think if it were me, GP3R is still, I think, the if they want to do a street race, that's the way that they're going to go about it. And it would be for, I've heard, if they're going to do it, it's Xfinity, it's not Cup. I don't think they have any intention of bringing Cup here. I could be wrong. I mean, I don't know. It's just my own opinion here. But I do think that people are paying attention. You have names like Matt Weaver out there, Joseph Strigley, people that know, Dave Moody, they know this series, that they can talk about it. They can say how good of a series it is. But again, what we need is Canadians to continue to bring these up and continue to build. Because if you have a rabid fan base here, they're going to come. Now, I'm not saying that we don't have it. And if you're going to go to a place, Quebec is a great place to do it. Because their fan base is, when you watch, if you go back, watch Circuit Villeneuve, and I believe it was either 2007 or 2008 when Andrew Ranger won. And they went absolutely ballistic. May have been 2008. There was 30, I think they had to send cars home because there were so many cars that showed up. The crowd was phenomenal. When he came and he won that race, there's a race with Jason Bowles. Maybe that was 2011. I could be wrong here. Somebody will know in here. But it definitely is a great option to have it here. And I think a lot of fans in the United States loved the races that they got from the Xfinity Series in Circuit Villeneuve and at tracks like and having the Xfinity Series and CTMP. They both provided amazing finishes. That I don't think we've seen since. There's a couple of races here. A couple comments here that I want to make sure I get to here. Richard Hadler talking about bringing in another NASCAR series like, say, trucks. It is a shame we have lost Ducasse. We haven't lost Ducasse fully, Richard. I've been told by people within the track, the general manager, and family members from from the general manager, the track is not operating, but it's not dead. People keep thinking that it's done, it's demolished. It's not. Hopefully they're still looking at options, and hopefully at some point somebody will buy it and maybe it becomes the Kenny Hill Memorial Speedway or something. I mean, that's what I would do if I had the money to do it, is name it after the man who made it happen. Operate it, have weekly divisions. It's tough because it's all about the money, right? We have to remember it's all about money. Land is so valuable nowadays that I can understand people that don't get after 2 years of COVID and being closed, I guess, for 2 years. It's probably too much for them to overcome right now. But you never know. You never know if somebody comes in with deep pockets that looks at that track and goes, you know what, I love it. You get a Dale Jr. who goes, you know what, I'll license my name on it. You never know, really. But as far as I know, again, it's not dead. It's just maybe on life support. Seabell and Kyle will run both like Stewart. Yeah. They definitely will. They're not going to struggle on dirt. That's definitely true. I think midweek deal once a year is great as nobody else, or very few in North America are running and it works. It's true. You're not going to get races midweek most of the time. It just doesn't happen. I think they have a good plan. Listen, people complaining that it's midweek. You have all year to plan vacations. Plan it around something you want to go to. That's what we kind of have to do. Plan in advance. I understand people being upset that it's not available during this time. It's not available that people can't do it because of work. Well, you kind of have to book around it. They can't accommodate everybody. That's just the reality of it, right? Jim, I would keep GP3R all local. Going to Montreal is fine, but GP3R is already a raving success. Don't let the Daytona crowd ruin it. Yeah. I mean, I love it. I don't think that they'd suffer from it, but I do like having it all Canadian racing there. If it were me, obviously, I'd like to see even more go to GP3R. I think give it 2 GP3R weekends. I'd love it. I love that track. I love the facility. I love everything about where it is. I got to go for the first time this year, and you guys are missing out if you've never been. Definitely plan, go, stay for a couple of days, not just one though. Tim, I'd love to see at least a few next gen cars on CTMP just to get a feel. Yeah, I think so. Why not? But put our drivers in them, Tim. That's the real thing. Put some real good road course racers in them. And Ron Fellows. Let's bring Ron Fellows out of his retirement and just make him come and race them too. Then again, Owl says, the city of Montreal has said that if they were going to bring NASCAR back to the track, they were going to do the Cup Series. Again, absolutely, Owl. But it's all about the sponsorship. I don't know if they can get Formula One, but Formula One's global, right? So it's different. If we can get the Pinty Series, that's great, but the Pinty Series is unfortunately never going to be a companion event for Formula One. It would be great. It would be cool. Then you get like a Lance Stroll or Jacques Villeneuve would definitely do it for that weekend. Richard, good. It's too much. Yep, it has they did so much to Cayuga and make it into Jukasa, and then for things to go away. It's a sign of the times, right? How much would I love to see Barrie Speedway or Mossport Oval still, or Kawartha? It just is a sign of the times. It is a tough market. I mean, there's tracks that you have in, Saint Eustache is another one. I loved Saint Eustache, one of my favorite racetracks ever. And to see it go as well, it is a tough sell for racetracks. And I don't know how healthy and how easy it is for tracks like Flamborough, Peterborough, Sunset. It can't be. The constant over, and this is the honest truth, the overproduction of condos and land development is putting all of that at risk, because people are going to pay millions of dollars for land, and if you're not making a ton of money at a racetrack, that's the thing that we have to remember. At the end of the day, how many months do racetracks in Canada sit empty? People still got to pay for it in those months. So there's a lot that's going to go into it, and hopefully we'll continue to see it. Tim says weekly would be tough. Fridays, yeah, that's true. But it's true, Tim. But I mean, they're struggling down there already, but maybe if you bring it back, you get a couple more visitors. Maybe they do. I don't think they would ever do just Sunday racing. I don't think that's a thing because people got to work the next day, but hard to say. I don't know. I just hope it. I saw Jason Hathaway in a driver's suit yesterday for a photo shoot. Anything is possible. Well, now you've got me intrigued, Tim. Now you've got me intrigued. Team 3 testing at CTMP Wednesday. Yep, road course testing. 22 Racing, I believe, is also going to do some road course testing. I don't know why they're doing it at the end of the season, but there could be maybe some tire testing that's taking place. There could be engine testing. No idea really what they're actually doing there, but it's true. I mean, farmers sell property nowadays because these developers have millions and millions of dollars. And what are you going to do? Are you going to struggle to make ends meet, or are you going to take money? It's kind of hard to say no if they offer you like $7 million for your struggling racetrack that then you won't have to worry about anymore. Right? You got to really love it. Clinton Jeffrey, they did a champions photo shoot. That may be why Hathaway was in a suit. Love it. Richard Hadler, Cup leaving the States is probably a pipe dream. Short of an exhibition deal like Japan, Xfinity, or Trucks would be a fantastic show. I'd be fine watching either. Again, will they... it's so tough because of the money too, right? Xfinity and truck teams don't make as much as the Cup Series either, right? So you're talking about something that is like, it's tough. That's why we here in Canada gotta pump up what we have, because get corporations from Canada to be represented here. It means nothing for business in Canada to have American companies come up and be represented here. It means nothing. Like, you want to showcase what we have here. Jason did it for photos. They were NASCAR Canada exclusive. Okay, so again, what could be happening here, and I don't have any inside information on this, but the NASCAR.ca site has been MIA and not been updated for a while. With the roster and everything like that. If they're doing a NASCAR Canada photo shoot, I would be thinking that what's going to happen is there's going to be some sort of a relaunch for a brand new site. I'm hoping. I'm just guessing here. They talked about having to go through the United States for a lot of the web stuff, and I would hope that changes with the new team. And I know there's some great people at Kilton Inc. that we work with in the OSS. The owner works in the series as on a crew, so there's options there if they're going to have an amazing new site. But maybe that's what they're doing. That would be cool. I'm just guessing. I have no idea. But with Sherry. Okay. So there we go. That's kind of the confirmation from Tim. They have too many Cup races, and the teams are already complaining, so unless a lot changes... Exactly. They're going to complain about the cost to come up here, and then you got to have a purse that's big enough. Remember how much the purses are for Cup racing, too. It's not a small feat here. And if I'm not mistaken, there were struggles for them to get funding for the Xfinity and the truck races as well. So, again, focusing on the NASCAR Pinty Series is what we can do here. If you make it so that NASCAR wants to come here because of the NASCAR Pinty Series putting on such great races, that's what we would want. But ultimately, it is a tough sell, right? We have amazing corporations here that need to get their own representation that have value. And I think we have opportunities here to grow. That's why having a show like this on GeForce, having options for podcasts, for videos, for interviews, social media. You have to get those sponsors, those partners out there, because it's all about the return of investment. If there's not enough return of investment, companies are not going to be interested in staying. It's a really hard sell to get sponsorship. And to get what some guys do have, like an LP Dumoulin, like a DJ Kennington, an Alex Tagliani, you have to do a lot of work. Tagliani is one of the examples that he does so much promotion for his sponsors. So much of it. Let's see. Back when they went to Japan, NASCAR had way more money. Yes, they did. Well, the difference is between exhibition races that Canada is easily accessible. That is a very fair point as well. Again, costs, though, are a lot more than what they were back in the 90s. So, Clinton, here is a crazy stat regarding Canadian tracks. If they run 25 nights a year, the site still sits unused 93% of the year. And that is coming from a guy who knows about tracks. That's a hard sell. That's a really, really hard sell. And not every track can be used as a concert venue. Again, it's a lot of work to operate a racetrack. You've got to get guys that love motorsports, guys and gals that love motorsports, or you get a branded company that wants to purchase it. I've said before, the Crown Jewel should be owned by Diageo. And then you make it the Crown Royal Speedway. Canadian Whiskey Speedway. Come on. Who wouldn't love a branded racetrack like that? I can't see them leaving home base unless the new TV deal after 24 opens things up. That's a good point. Remember the Truck Series on FS1. And that's where you're, and in Canada you're getting it. That's the problem too. I mean, we were lucky that TSN they were able to get a deal to get the truck race on TSN. I'm so impressed with what Paillet has done with GM and Chevrolet is impressive. I'll tell you what, Jim. People are going to crap on JC Paillet because of the champion, because of his driver, because of stuff that may have happened off track. I don't know. But I have talked with this guy. I have met with him. His vision is to make the Pinty Series like the Cup Series for Canada. That's what we want to see from people that are coming into the series. I could see him wanting to be like a Rick Hendrick. Chevrolet affiliated. Dealerships are huge. That's what we see with Rick Hendrick. Having a guy that has that vision, that's meeting with people from Chevrolet at CTMP to try and get a bigger investment is what you want. It's showing a lot, not just a determination, but his passion for racing. And when we talked with him, I talked with him after the race at CTMP, and one thing that he said really stuck out to me is that he wanted to see more Chevrolet involvement, but he mentioned nothing about the team. He said, not about the team, for the series. I want this for the series. At the end of the day, people that are coming into the series are fans. And so are the owners. They're fans. That's why they're there. That's why they're involved with it. Okay, so here we go. Clinton says again, and at a specials only place like Ducasa, it sits unused 96% of the time. We've talked about this a couple ways. I think that, and I'm not just saying this because of what we're doing here, but G-Force and TSN would be a great combination effort. They're a great combo. If you put them together, you have streaming available online, double places. TSN.ca, Flow Racing, and G-Force. The problem is licensing, right? We don't know when those license deals were put up. We don't know what that includes. But say you had an option to put on practices when you're at the racetrack. I think people would tune in for that. I'm one of them. I would tune in for practice, qualifying, whatever they have, so that you get timing and scoring and footage while you're there. But there's so much that goes involved. You don't have a team of like 30 guys and gals that are crew for the TV, for the broadcast. It's just not like that. That's the big difference, is unfortunately people expect that you're going to get this multi-million-dollar production, right? And I'm not sure what it takes to put on a broadcast right now. But for what we're getting, the value is absolutely amazing. And people are, I don't want to spend this much money for... Well, then, what are we complaining about? We have options here now. Lots of them. Lots of great options. Take it. We had nothing a couple of years ago. We had absolutely nothing. You had timing and scoring, and that's all you could watch. And if it went out, you kind of had to wait until the race was over. So it's getting there. It's getting there. But it'll take time. Yeah, so there you go. So, saying that the Sunset offers the track for storage for the wintertime. That's a smart idea. You want to store your boat for your cottage there, store whatever you want in the off-season, have at it. Spend us, pay us some money. There we go. It's going to be something that's a work in progress still for the series. I mean, we know that a lot of people want to see it live on TSN. I think, again, like we talked about in previous episodes, the hard sell is, do we think that NASCAR is going to want to put the product up against the Cup Series? I don't think you're ever going to see that. That's the reality. I don't know where you're gonna see when you're gonna see that ever happen. And you're right, Richard, is that the OEMs, that was the big part of it, right? The Mopar situation. We had Ford before that was so invested. You had Mopar that was so invested. Chevrolet coming in is great, but we need more than just that. There's going to be works in progress here. You got the right guy in charge, Tony Spiteri, coming in. He's going to work on whatever he can to try and make things better. But we got to give it a little bit of time. It can't be done overnight. It's going to take time. We're working on as much footage as we can possibly get, trying to do stuff in the off season. We're going to continue this show. You know, there's not going to be a ton to talk about, but we can still talk about the series. We can talk about what next year could look like. Drivers, the races that we saw, the races we're going to see, the history. There's a lot of it that we can definitely see here. I know we're getting close and we're pretty much over our time slot here, but I just want to say thank you to Clinton. Thank you to Adam, to Spencer, to everybody at NASCAR, to Sherry Putnam, and a happy retirement for you, to the race officials who always have some kind words, the fans, the teams, the drivers, the people that make this series happen. It is my favorite. It is the one I like to see, to watch, to follow, enjoy. It's the one that I want to see succeed. And to be able to host this show is an absolute privilege. And I really hope that that we continue to improve. And I think that there's a lot of good that can come next year. I think there's a lot of people that look really, really good for next year. Trayton obviously had a great end to his season. Good start to the season with his win, but much better towards the end of the season. They had a couple issues at the middle with mechanical issues. I think you have guys like Brandon Watson really started to turn it on towards the end of the year. Lots of good. coming into the series for next year. Chrysler's been owned by so many different corporations in life. I'm 63, and each one goes in a different direction. It's hard to get, and that's what was something that was mentioned to me was back when you had CASCAR. Think about all the corporations that have merged or been bought out that would have been sponsoring a car back then. There is so many. You take a perfect example of like the Stanley Black & Decker. Like, it used to be two different companies, and they merged, right? There's so much of that happening now that it's hard to get those companies because it's owned by such a big corporation now that they have no interest in doing anything of the sort for motorsports. And hopefully we can try to bring that down a little bit. Bring the costs down, get more interest, get more people into it. But we're going to take a bit of a hiatus. We're going to take about at least 2 weeks for the NASCAR Pinty Series Power Hour. Kyle, I understand that you don't like it, but I mean, it's over now. There's nothing else we can do about it. It's done. It's over with. If you don't like it, you got to go to something else. Really. I mean, because there's nothing else. Unless you want to sign up and you can be the tech director, why not? That's the way to go about it. I mean, there's going to be issues like this, and there has been issues in racing like this for years. Been told all about it in the CASCAR days. This is a common theme that people made a mockery of the rules. It happens. It happens. We'll be back in a couple of weeks to talk more about the NASCAR Pinty Series and look forward to 2023. Do some silly season research, do some work. Talk about where you sign up. You got to reach out, buddy. Go to NASCAR. Just start hammering them with emails. Tech Director Kyle Edgar. I mean, it works. It rhymes. It's perfect. Yeah, we'll get out there. And see what we can. But yeah, we'll be taking it off a couple weeks to finally unwind, and we'll enjoy the championship champagne here. But everybody, great season. We'll continue to improve the podcast and then continue to improve the show here. Do a couple more things in the off season, but we're gonna end it here with the finish, the last race of the 2022 season at Delaware Speedway. A great battle to the end with Brandon Watson and Donald Teach. A nice, clean finish. Great way to end it. See you all in a couple of weeks.
2 laps to go.
Down through 1 and 2 they go, up the hill and then down the hill, down into corner number 3. Watson leads, but Teach is right there.
Teach has been a victim of a bump and run before. Is he going to lay one down? They come off at turn number 4. The white flag is in the air. Teach is having a look on Brandon Watson. Looks to the inside into turn number 1.
Here they come through corner number 2 for the final time and down the backstretch. Watson edges ahead, but Teach is going to give it one last shot.
Deep into the corner goes Teach. He sets the car into the middle. Is he going to give him a bump? Down off of turn number 4.